Hello, and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Mike Gergoni.
Greetings.
And that is it today.
That feels weird.
I know, it does feel weird. We are unfortunately down a panelist.
There is an absence.
There's just an empty... We were both looking at an empty chair in between us.
It's so sad. I feel like Clint Eastwood. Just staring at an empty chair.
I finally get what was going on the Republican, primary stage or whatever that was, the convention. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, Donovan Eilert unable to record this week.
He will be missed.
He will be missed
for at least a week.
Yeah, I'm sure. He's definitely back in the next episode, since we've already recorded it.
What? In the future?
I'm sorry. I mean, this podcast is live, as we've established. It is live for whenever you are listening to it.
Totally. We are in the internet.
We are talking right now at the same time you are listening.
I mean, in all likelihood, probably, unless you're listening at like 3 a.m., and in which case, if I am talking, you shouldn't be listening.
Nope, nobody wants to hear that. Long ramblings,
No, I don't want to kill them, no. What?
That's about right. But we got an exciting one for people anyway. You and I will try to make up the difference of
the trick here is I'm gonna have to like bring an air of positivity to this episode that is normally not my cadence.
Something has to fill the Donovan void.
Yeah, I'll try.
Which could be the title of this episode. I don't think it will be, but it could be called the Donovan Void. But no, of course, as you can see from the description of the episode, we were talking about Deadpool,
the movie
specifically. And we'll talk. Well, of course, we'll touch on the comics. We can't not. But specifically the movie, which
as opposed to appearances in certain cartoon shows or that one time he was in the X-Men animated series.
That's right, he was in that one episode of
very, very briefly, but yes.
There's like a shot where they show all the Weapon X people, and you see Deadpool float by.
Yep.
There he goes. There's Deadpool. And Rob Liefeld's cashing a check from it still to this day. But yeah, of course, Deadpool. And whoo boy, is this movie successful?
Yeah. As we record, it is on track to be one of the highest grossing R-rated films of all time.
Yeah, I was telling you, I was reading some box office analysts discussing it when basically their attitude is just I don't know. I don't know. Nobody saw this coming.
I feel that is the correct response to a Deadpool movie. It's just I don't even just hands in the air.
Okay.
Sure.
Fine. I mean,
yeah. All right.
It's really interesting because it was initially tracking to be successful.
A moderate success.
Yeah, moderate success. It was going to make its money back. It was probably going to do okay. It was going to spawn a sequel. Juggernaut of a movie, though. Mm-hmm. Even without the Juggernaut's presence in it. No, he is not in the film. Unfortunately, we'll save him for a sequel. Vinnie Jones is just waiting by a phone somewhere, just staring at it impatiently, going, "Come on!"
He's busy with Gallivant.
That's true. It's true. But still, he would in a second put that helmet back on.
He didn't even have the helmet in the movies, did he?
He had a helmet.
Yeah, but it wasn't the full breadbasket dome.
Well, no,
helmet. That's what I want out of a Juggernaut.
I don't know that anybody could really wear that helmet.
Come on, you don't wear that helmet. That helmet wears you.
It's true. He had more of a brown football helmet.
Yeah,
kind of
I
thing.
wasn't a fan.
No one was a fan of that. Was he just tossed in there? They're I don't know. That whole movie is I guess the Juggernaut.
Juggernaut, bitch. I don't know.
Yeah, we need to say that somewhere in there. Do we? Do we really? I mean, it's fine that he does, but whatever.
I don't. We're not talking about the Juggernaut in any of his incarnations today.
No.
Nor will we ever, if I have anything to do with it.
Someone in that same vein, though, someone insisted that in the G.I. Joe movie, the first one was The Rise of Cobra, somebody was willing to bet me money that it was Destro would say, anybody want a body massage?
Oh, because of that YouTube video?
Yeah. Insisted upon it.
I would have loved to have seen that. I really would have. But
and I was like, no way. There's just the tone of that movie in no way indicates.
Eccleston as Destro would have said, "Anyone want a body massage?"
Yeah, Eccleston. What was he doing? Taking a paycheck, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about Deadpool, which we said hugely successful. I mean, it is surprising, obviously, but.
To you, I am not so surprised by
this is what I'm saying. It is surprising to a certain extent, but at the same time, being, in the comics world as we are, that character is very, very popular.
He's reaching oversaturation levels of Wolverine in the 90s.
He's
everywhere.
He has like 4 books now at Marvel or something like that.
Well, he's got straight up Deadpool. We've got Mercs for Money.
Yep,
is one.
Cable Deadpool.
He's in the Cable. That's just a miniseries.
Well, so is Spider-Man Deadpool.
That's true.
So he's got 2 miniseries and 2 ongoings. Mm-hmm. And I think he might still be in Thunderbolt. Is Thunderbolts even going at this point?
I have no idea.
I don't know what's happening over there at Marvel. No one does. And then soon, I do understand what's going on at DC, but at Marvel,
I'm just not a fan.
We'll see. We'll talk in the summer when we talk Rebirth. But yeah, Deadpool is all over the place at Marvel right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this movie is going to do anything to diminish that oversaturation.
See, this is an interesting thing because we saw this with each successive Marvel movie. I feel like we saw the movie hit big, and then we saw that character kind of spinning off into a bunch of different series.
Yeah.
We saw it with Guardians of the Galaxy. We saw it with Ant-Man. We definitely saw it with Iron Man. I feel like Iron Man really came back into the zeitgeist in the Marvel comics.
Hugely so, including being a Guardian of the Galaxy.
Right. But what's interesting about Deadpool is Deadpool was already like that.
It's true.
So if they cranked it up even more, I don't even know what that looks like.
He is literally in every book.
Wasn't he in the Avengers title? Isn't he still?
Ooh, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure
he's not. He's not in All New, All Different.
He's not in All New, All Different, but I'm pretty sure he was in Uncanny.
Oh, I think he was in Uncanny, but they're not doing. I know they're not publishing Uncanny at the moment. They just have the one Avengers title right now, which is fine. For the love of God. I mean, I know that was like the big name of the game over at Marvel was simplify. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For the love of God, please. No one understands what the hell's happening.
Because Secret Wars isn't even done yet.
It just now is over, and there'll be a giant overpriced hardcover of it coming out.
And I'm sure I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's going to be like $50 or something like that.
Done and done.
I don't care. I'm still buying it. That's all I'm hearing.
But yeah, I don't even if the oversaturation of Deadpool is to be continued, like reverse engineer it back into the comics, I feel like they'd get to a point of like extreme Deadpool that literally we'd have a book called Extreme Deadpool for no other reason than we need more Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, this is a concern for me, certainly, because it's something I've said to you a few times. Like, for me, a little Deadpool goes a long way.
And I'm a big Deadpool fan.
Deadpool, and I am just.
You're a moderate Deadpool.
I'm a moderate Deadpool fan. I find him very entertaining, but in doses. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't read too many issues of him at a time before I'm just like, oh God, it's so snarky.
And like we always say, it really depends on who's writing it.
Oh, for sure. Because
you read some of that early stuff, and it's very like grim and straightforward.
Definitely. I mean, I went back prior to the movie. I had never read like the original Deadpool miniseries, the first 2 that kicked it off. And yeah, he's got one-liners and stuff, but it's not a comedy by any means. I mean, it's a very serious story, and it's like mad scientists and stuff. And
it's definitely got more zany as it's gone on,
and to more or lesser degrees. You look at like the Daniel Way stuff, very zany. You look at the Posehn Duggan stuff, zany but somewhat grounded in
much more grounded
in something at least.
And you look at what's his name, Fabian? He wrote all of Cable and Deadpool.
I know who you're talking about, but
I'm totally blanking on his last name. But the Cable and Deadpool stuff, I mean, mostly this is thanks to the character of Cable, but very much more grounded.
Oh, for sure.
But we see the beginnings of that zanier Deadpool that would end up becoming in the Daniel Way run.
Well, because you have Cable to balance him out, you can make Deadpool the zanier, because I'm a big fan of the Thunderbolts comics, and Deadpool's so zany, but at the same time you have the Punisher next to him, and you're like, oh, okay, that bounces out because you have the grimmest guy ever in this book, so you can make Deadpool the zany one on the team.
And I'll say this about the movie, I think it struck an okay chord where like finding that Deadpool is concerned. I don't know if the movie Deadpool is my Deadpool per se.
We talked about this immediately after coming. You've seen the movie twice.
I have.
I just saw it the once. We can sort of lock into the movie here a bit. It's interesting what they do. They definitely, I feel like they were trying to go down somewhat of the Posehn Duggan path.
I feel like they were pulling a lot from that and from the Daniel Way stuff, because there were specific scenes that were pulled directly from Daniel Way's run.
Is that right? I've not read as much of that as I have of the Posehn Duggan stuff.
So the bit with where we just see Wade Wilson and the pizza guy, that's straight out of Daniel Way's run.
Is that right?
Like beat for beat, that scene is in there. That's during the Dark Reign stuff when he's fighting. Oh, who was it who shows up? It's Bullseye dressed as Hawkeye.
Okay. Okay.
Well, because during Dark Reign, there was the whole Dark Avengers
that's
thing.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
All the villains pretending to be the superheroes.
I did. Yeah, that's right. I did read Dark Avengers, which is a cool book. But it definitely has some of that. Like they give him somewhat of an emotional core here in that way that the Posehn Duggan, and that's really why I was drawn to their book. I feel like they tapped into something that other writers have not as much with Deadpool.
Because there's definitely a pathos to that character,
for sure,
that you can tap into, and the best runs in Deadpool definitely tap into that.
Because otherwise, why am I reading it? Like that's so many Deadpool comics I've read, I've just stopped because it's like, what do I care? Why? I mean, yeah, he has funny lines, but.
And I'll say this about the Daniel Way run: it is definitely contentious among Deadpool fans. I feel like whether you like that run or not.
Interesting.
Some people thought that was like, oh, this is the Deadpool that I know and love because this is how I discovered Deadpool.
Yeah.
And a lot of like older Deadpool fans are like, this man killed Deadpool for us. He destroyed this character. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I like some bits of that run. There are other bits that are just completely not for me. Specifically, some of the parts where he goes into space are just weird.
Yeah, I mean, space is always going to be a tricky subject with any character.
But it worked so damn well for Venom.
It did, yeah. For some reason but there is sort of a cosmic nature to Venom to a certain extent.
That's true.
But didn't work so well for James Bond.
No.
Moonraker.
Pigeon double takes.
Pigeon double takes abound.
So, but yeah, I feel like the Deadpool in the movie that we got was some kind of synergistic fusion of a lot of these different Deadpools, which... Yeah. When you're talking about Deadpool, is rather appropriate.
Well, and also it's something that movies do. I mean, you look at...
The good ones, anyway.
Yeah, you look at a lot of superhero movies, and especially with characters who've been around for a while. And Deadpool's been around for, 20...
Going on 30.
Going on 30 years?
Because, I don't know, when was the end of New Mutants?
It was sometime in the 90s. I think it's early 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, over 20 years, for sure. But I mean, because I've always thought of him as a very '90s character.
Oh,
I mean, he's a Rob Liefeld creation.
So many pouches.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, like,
especially his older costumes, just so many pouches.
Like Deadpool, Rob Liefeld. These are Todd McFarlane. He has nothing to do with them. But I'm saying, like, these are the when I think '90s comic books. Like Spawn and Deadpool, or I have more. I don't put them together as being similar, but I associate them with that era.
It's not quite up there with Adam X the Extreme.
No,
who makes people's blood explode.
He just is. Yeah, that guy's insane. He just is the '90s in a superhero, like packaged together. That whole decade became a superhero, and it's Adam X the Extreme. But yeah, for sure. He definitely has.
But Deadpool, at least at first, definitely personified that a little bit.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because he I mean, it was the '90s. Like, I guess what choice did he have? Yeah. And he was Rob Liefeld. So,
and I'll say this about the movie is that it's very, I don't want to say unapologetic, but it's making references that like. If you weren't alive in the 90s, you probably won't get.
Sure. Some even older than that.
Some much older than that.
There's some weird references in this movie that I appreciate as somebody who makes weird references in real life, and nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about.
It's true.
Yeah. When I'm the only person in the theater laughing at something.
Golden Girls.
Yeah, Golden Girls. But there really weren't many Golden Girls references.
It's true.
There are more references in the comic than there are in the
much more.
They didn't say B and Arthur, I don't think. In the
Not even once, no B. Arthur.
I know. I was really actually upset about that.
I was upset about the lack of B. Arthur references.
Well, I mean, as a huge Golden Girls fan, I feel like B. Arthur needs to be represented in more pop culture.
It's true. Where better place than Deadpool?
Exactly. But we have to start with, of course, with, what everybody knows and what had been sort of decided upon for years was Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
And again, I think this goes back to the Cable and Deadpool run because I believe within the first couple of issues, Deadpool describes himself as Ryan Reynolds. If Ryan Reynolds got like bit by a radioactive Shar-Pei or something. And that line is actually even in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I look like I got bit by a radioactive Shar-Pei.
That's right. It is. Well, what I had heard was that when he was doing Blade Trinity.
Oh yeah.
Several people, in the crew.
I am a Blade Trinity apologist too.
You shouldn't be, except for Ryan Reynolds. Is fantastic in that movie. That movie is awful. It's really bad.
It's really bad, except for Ryan Reynolds.
Who is
and
super awesome.
Briefly, Patton Oswalt,
who's just totally wasted in that movie.
True.
And I mean, like Wesley Snipes doesn't even want to be in that Blade movie.
And Wesley Snipes barely wanted to be in any of the movies.
I don't know. I'd say he's on board for 1 and 2, but 3, I feel like he's just like, what
is
a
tax shelter.
Who do I even? I don't know what this is. But yeah, Ryan Reynolds is single-handedly holding that movie together. But apparently, while making that movie, some of the crew members were like, you're kind of playing Deadpool in this, and he was like, "What's a Deadpool?" And then they gave him some comics. And he's like, "Holy crap, I want to be Deadpool!" And then it just sort of started spiraling. It's just like he really lobbied hard to be Deadpool, and and the fans seem to agree.
To his detriment at one point, because we got the cinematic abortion that is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
From what I gather, and people don't like to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine, so not a ton of people talk about what really happened on that movie, but from what I gather, he was developing Deadpool, and then they were like, it would be really smart to launch Deadpool in a Wolverine movie, to which I think Ryan Reynolds was like, okay, and then he read the script and was like, oh,
this is not Deadpool.
No, they were just like, shut up, pretty boy.
I'm wondering
here's some money.
If he knew that wasn't faithful to the character, I'm wondering how he got roped into that, other than just the paycheck.
Yeah, some kind of money or contract thing, I'm sure. Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm wondering if he already had some kind of deal worked out with Fox to develop Deadpool.
From what I gather, he was already, if not Fox, then the Donners, Richard and Lauren Donner, who produce all the X-Men stuff.
Right.
I know particularly Lauren Donner has been championing this movie with Ryan Reynolds for years.
Cool.
Years and years. So I think at the very least with the Donners, who produce all these movies, they were developing it, if not Fox. And then I don't know exactly how he ended up in it, but from what I gather, Ryan Reynolds was never happy with the portrayal of him. Yeah, with the portrayal of him in that movie. Nor should he be.
And what I loved is there were several gags in this new Deadpool movie about how much he disliked it.
Yeah, because it's terrible. I don't know if it was some kind of, hey, do this, and then we'll let you make the Deadpool movie you want to make, or...
Because I'll say this, going into that movie, I knew Ryan Reynolds being Wade Wilson was the thing, and I was like, ooh, okay.
Good choice.
Set it up.
Right.
Great choice.
His first scene,
His first scene as Wade Wilson, great.
Yeah.
And then they sewed his mouth shut, made him into a weird Deadpool clone or Wolverine clone that could shoot eye lasers for some reason.
I distinctly remember watching the third act of that movie and just going, what is going on right now? Just any of it, really. They're fighting on top of a nuclear silo.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just,
this why
is
not?
So bizarre. And I remember thinking, is that even Ryan Reynolds or a stunt double? Or?
I actually don't know. Was it him underneath all that prosthesis?
I think it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, at least for some of the shots.
Sure.
I think a lot of the fighting was a stunt double, but yeah, I think it was, because it's just that's kind of a waste of a guy who's known for his banter,
witty banter. Yeah. Have you guys seen Waiting?
Exactly. You got Van Wilder in this movie.
Right.
He'll always be Van Wilder to me.
Sure.
But what I was going to say, then unfortunately, we also have in between this a movie called Green Lantern.
Yeah, that exists.
That's out there.
You could watch it. Yeah.
I mean, you have the ability to watch it.
Your eyes are capable.
I might own a Blu-ray of that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I believe somebody bought it from me going, you love Green Lantern. Christmas, it's easy.
I mean, you do. You like Green Lantern.
I do.
That movie's not Green Lantern.
No.
Well, okay.
I wouldn't say that. It's not like nothing of it's not
Right.
not the Deadpool that's at the end of X-Men Origins.
Yes.
It's not that. But it's just one of the biggest problems is it's probably only half a click off of what it should be, but it's just enough to go, this doesn't add up. And wait, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Peter Sarsgaard are supposed to be the same age? They all went to college together. There's 10 years between each of them. You're just like,
right? No.
Pretty sure Blake Lively's 24 and she owns an company, an airline company. That doesn't make any sense. Best thing he got out of that movie is Blake Lively, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I don't know how much he looks back on that as a negative. But yeah, he did play another superhero, and it was a case of just miscasting. Really, like he's just not that character.
Yeah, that was a weird casting choice.
And then, unfortunately, a series of other bad decisions on his part. And some movies have we find Ryan Reynolds at the beginning of this movie in kind of a bad place, both as the character and as Ryan
Reynolds and the story of Wade Wilson.
Yeah, kind of a bad place for him here. This is obviously doing well. And I just want to say, if Ryan Reynolds is listening, I don't know why he would be. Maybe he just listens. I assume he listens to anything involving Deadpool.
I will say this. He's shockingly active on the Deadpool subreddit on
there you
Reddit.
go.
Like, he'll pop up every once in a while and be like, Ryan Reynolds is here.
There you go. I say, more like this, sir. This is what we want to see you do. I want to see him crack wise and kill bad guys.
Yeah.
He's really good at that.
Yes, he is.
Maybe less movies with Helen Mirren.
Well, if Helen Mirren also wants to kill bad guys and crack wise with him...
Which she's actually pretty awesome at.
100% on board with that.
But also she's awesome at everything.
It's true.
There's nothing that woman can't do. She's amazing. Helen Mirren, if you want to come on and be the third panelist on the show, that'd be awesome.
Sorry, Donovan, we're replacing you with Helen Mirren.
Dame Helen Mirren. And my co-host, Mike Gergoni, and Dame Helen Mirren.
One day, John, one day.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, so we have Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. This is an interesting movie. Like right off the bat, we're in a non-linear film.
Yes.
Good decision?
I think it adds to the scatterbrain nature of the Deadpool character, but also I think it mostly just builds on what the expectations of people, because a lot of the positive reviews I've seen of this movie,
which it has like an 85 or 86 something on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a certified fresh.
Because I'll say this going into this movie, I recommend seeing it if you're a fan of the character. And it's also just a really fun movie.
Yeah,
but this movie does have some problems.
Yeah, I mean it's we'll get into it as we sort of dig into the plot here. But yeah, I mean it's not a. We're not saying this is like a perfect masterpiece of a movie or anything.
Right. So
and I don't know that
non-linear
really
nature of this movie adds to the unexpectedness of it in that we haven't necessarily seen a superhero movie do this sort of thing before on a lot of levels.
Well, we have kind of, though, because this is the point I was going to make to a certain extent with this non-linear is this has kind of been the way we're doing origin stories, hasn't it? Nolan does Batman like this.
Sure.
Snyder does Superman like this.
Okay. None of the Marvel movies, I guess.
No. I
have a feeling Doctor Strange is going to be something along these lines.
Possibly.
But
I mean, yeah, no, not exactly.
All the Marvel origin movies have been pretty straightforward origin stories.
Except for Iron Man, which messes with it just a tad, but not too much.
Just an eensy-beensy little
Which
bit.
is in a really interesting way, actually. But, I mean, I'm just saying, it's interesting that they did that.
Right.
But the other thing, and the reason I think Nolan and Snyder did this with their superhero movies, and I think that one of the reasons that this movie does it, you have the scatter shot thing like you're talking about, but you also have, we're going to open on action.
Right.
We're jumping in.
So
like you talk about, we're going to start with people's expectation. Guy in a red suit, swords, guns, killing people, cracking wise. Because otherwise...
The opening credits is showing a car mid everyone dying and it's rolling over a highway.
Yeah.
That's we're doing a full pan around the action in and outside of this car.
It's frozen, yeah.
Right, as we go through the opening credits, which...
Well, the non-opening credits, actually.
Right.
Which certainly set a tone instead of having formal credits, which I don't know how they did this, because there are weird union guidelines about credits and stuff. Mm-hmm. But, it says things like...
Directed by... overpaid douchebags.
Yeah.
Written by the real heroes of this movie,
right.
Starring some pretty boy, a hot chick, and a British bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
A CGI character and a moody teen.
Yeah, exactly. Which is all accurate, but there is this very cool kind of we're gonna use. They set the tone right from the start for sure, which is good. But it's really interesting to do that. But we also, just like I said, we start in action.
Right.
We start with Deadpool fully formed, because if you think about it, if you were to piece the movie back together in a linear fashion, it would take a long time to get to action.
Oh yeah.
And him in the costume,
because
like a half hour.
Half hour, 45 minutes, if not that.
Yeah.
Because what I do like about this Deadpool is that we set him up as less of a loner.
Right.
Right from the get-go. whether it be his interactions with Colossus or his interactions with Morena Baccarin's character, which I'm completely... Vanessa, that's it.
Yeah. Isn't that from the comics?
No.
I thought there was a Vanessa in the comics.
I mean, I don't know if her name is Vanessa in the comics, but the woman who he has the kid with in the comics?
Yeah, I thought that was Vanessa.
I do not know.
I think it is.
I could be wrong. The fact of the matter is that character is barely in the comics. It's more about the daughter in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's a huge presence. I don't think this is the same character, but I believe the love interest of Deadpool being named Vanessa is from the comics.
Could be right. Could be wrong. I don't.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. You have that interaction. You also have Weasel, played by T.J. Miller. He has a world. I mean, we start with this big action scene, and we keep cutting back and forth between this actual action scene. Like we do flashbacks within just this fight scene at the beginning.
Well, we don't actually get away from this scene until we're caught up with it. We don't get away from this big action set piece on the top of this highway until the movie has caught up with the action set piece, which I found interesting.
Ooh, yeah.
It doesn't progress. We keep slowing down over and over again within these little chunks of this scene.
Do we start with the movie when we start with him in the cab on the way to it.
That's true.
Yeah, which we should talk about, where he's in the cab
with Dopinder,
with the kid from Safety Not Guaranteed, and you have this really, I mean, you get this real sense of this banter that Deadpool has with people, and this goofy nature that he's got in these scenes.
And we start right off the bat with the breaking of the fourth wall when he flicks the gum into the camera, and it's just like ooh, and wipes it off.
Which I think they had the right amount of fourth wall breaking.
Because if it had gone a little further, it could have been a little obtuse.
Too much of that. It's one of my things with the comics as well. Too much of that, and I'm like, hey, okay, now, okay, I get it. It's a comic. It's a movie. It's like, how about you tell me a story? Would you mind doing that, please? You know, because I mean that is always the problem or the potential problem with any character like this, where it's just like, all right, snark is at a certain point going to overtake story, and you're just like, God, you have to be so cool and clever, don't you?
It might have in this movie. I don't know if it.
I don't think this movie crosses that line for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
It gets
dangerously close.
There were only a couple bits where I was like, "That's a little weird."
Though that is one of the things of Deadpool is like he just does not and will not and cannot shut up.
Yeah. Oh no, and I don't have a problem with that. But I'm talking about when it's just like they handled it just fine.
Right.
I feel like. So yeah, we have this. I mean, I just like the idea of him taking a taxi cab to a battle sequence.
I saw this great GIF online of crosscut of all these superhero movies of the superhero like taking off into the sky, be it Iron Man or Superman, or like jumping really far with the Hulk, or getting into the bat plane or whatever, and just Deadpool riding in a cab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they do a lot of. I mean, so much of it is this movie's going to live or die by its tone, and whether or not you're going to vibe with that tone.
Right.
And so I think right off the bat here we can sort of see like you're either on board or you're not with this movie. And then do we get the it's been a little while since I've seen it, so I'm trying to like piece together the exact order. Do we get the thing with he only has 12 bullets in this opening?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I really
Let's count them down.
I really like this because he left his ammo bag in the cab.
Right.
So he's got 12 bullets, and I've only got 12 bullets. Some of you are going to have to share, and then we're going to count I really like, this is a great action sequence, I feel like.
Oh yeah. I really enjoyed the bit where he like takes the guy out who had like shot him in the butt, and then he just like shoots him a couple more times when he's on the ground, and he's just like 5-4, stupid, wasting bullets, but worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you get this sense of the man who's ruled by his impulses with that kind of stuff, and it's such a cool and clever scene. And then when you see the shell casings on the ground, they're numbered. And so really fun, cool sequence here.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the action in this movie is exceptionally well done.
I think it's right up there in terms of with like the Wolverine, in terms of fun ninja-tastic action.
Yeah.
It was
lots of jumping and flipping and slashing and shooting. And,
yes.
Yeah.
If Crouching Tiger had some guns, which, now I need to see that.
It's very hyperkinetic, though. And I believe this is the first movie that Tim Miller has directed.
Oh, yeah, because the director of this movie, Tim Miller, is actually best known for his work with CGI cutscenes.
Yeah.
He was I believe he's the head of Blur Studios.
He is, yeah.
Blur is best known for some of its CGI trailers and cutscenes for video games.
So it's interesting that it's he hasn't directed a movie before, but he kind of, I mean, you could that's a comparable thing. I mean,
totally.
He made little movies essentially.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can understand why he would have a command of the visual.
Like, if you ever saw any of the crazy good looking CGI trailers for the Arkham games,
which were all fantastic,
right? Those were all Blur Studios.
Yeah, they did an amazing job with those. So it makes complete sense to me that this guy could direct a movie and a big action movie.
Right.
In particular.
Because where this movie spawned from was that test footage that quote unquote leaked.
Oh, there's actually a big thing about that where Fox really thinks Tim Miller leaked it, and he's like, no, I didn't leak it.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah,
say no more, say no more.
But they're super pissed about that. But yeah, that really got it sort of back in the zeitgeist. People going well, wait, if that's what it is, I want to see that movie.
That definitely shotgunned the whole fan vehemence that this movie get made.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds certainly spearheaded that in social media and just media in general.
Unquestionably, because he wanted to play Deadpool. There's no question that this guy really wants to do this. And maybe he needed it bad for his career,
I don't know. Either way, this movie got made and I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure. And it has helped his career, and it will.
I don't know whether or not, because if you saw that test footage a few years back, that scene is almost shot for shot in the movie.
Yeah.
I think they clearly redid it, and they.
Oh yes, they did. Yeah.
But I don't know how I necessarily feel about that. That test footage just was a scene from the movie.
Well, they obviously shot something that was in the script. I mean,
right.
So.
Yeah, I don't know, and this script has been floating around for a while because. At least a very close approximation to this script, I believe I remember reading 3 or 4 years ago.
That's because I sent it to you. Because
exactly.
I found this I found it 3 or 4 years ago. Because it was I sent it to you because it was well, this movie's never going to get made. So read what it could have been. It's kind of how I found it, where because I'm always searching around for screenplays online and stuff. Particularly, I love reading unmade superhero movies and stuff.
Right.
I read a lot of abandoned takes on characters.
You ever found George Miller's Justice League?
I do have George Miller's Justice League.
I want to read that so bad.
It's really interesting, and it's pretty good. It's actually really good. But yeah, I have a few things like that. I have Alex Garland's Halo script, and amongst some other things. I have J.J. Abrams' Superman script.
Cool.
But yeah, so I found that going well, since this will never get made, I'll read what I thought that what they figured they were going to do with Deadpool.
And this was shockingly, almost beat for beat, exactly what that movie was.
It's written by I wish I could remember their names right now. Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, who wrote Zombieland, which kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah. Tonally, they're very similar movies.
Yeah, and that script was a lot. I mean, they were on the right track.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I mean, they were. It's interesting. They didn't change a ton.
They definitely condensed a lot of stuff. The whole cadre of bad guys got condensed down to about 2 characters, which
biggest mistake this movie made. Not that it needed to be a cadre. Not specifically that they condensed it down, but what they condensed it down to.
The villains ended up becoming pretty bland.
Almost non-presence in the movie,
right,
for the most part.
But the whole part with Colossus tooling around, following Deadpool, trying to convince him to be on the X-Men, was straight out of that script.
Which I figured they would never get away with that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
There was no way, which actually makes me a little, I don't want to say sad, but almost I feel like we're not going to see Colossus in a straightforward X-Men movie because of this.
I don't know about that.
Because what this movie did in terms of its tone and violence, I think created a small fraction within the Fox's separate cinematic universe, if you want to call it that, the X movies.
We can call it the X movies because they're not including Fantastic in
No, they are not.
Nor should they. But yeah, I mean, it's the X universe or the mutant universe or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
But I feel like we're going to have one side of that universe that's going to be the straightforward X-Men movies, and those are forever going to be PG-13. And then we're going to have another side of that be the R-rated movies, whether it be Deadpool or X-Force or this new Wolverine movie. And I don't know if we're going to see any interaction or cross-cutting between those two.
Well, but I mean, if Wolverine is going to be an R-rated movie, Wolverine will always be a part of the X-Men. So
yeah, I don't know
in whatever capacity he is, but I mean, so I don't know. I think what you're going to see is X-Men characters coming to Deadpool, but Deadpool not coming to X-Men movies.
Sure. Just once, I want to see a movie like X-Men Apocalypse, though. Like some big, bombastic, world-ending threat that the X-Men are having to deal with, and just in the background, like Deadpool buying a chimichanga from a store, just like looking around. Just like something big is happening in the foreground, and then he's just in the background going, oh, this is happening. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense for Apocalypse, but because of the timeline. But yeah. But yeah.
But like when they inevitably go up against, I don't know, the High Evolutionary or some other bullshit, like
who's got the rights to that?
I have no idea. Yeah. High Evolutionary is so no one would ever do High Evolutionary.
Nobody cares who has the rights to that. Is what you're saying?
We're going to see Dr. Druid before we see High Evolutionary.
We're never seeing that. So, but yeah, no, that would be interesting, and it is interesting to see it as they build their universe because we go to the Xavier Institute in this movie, and that's the Xavier Institute from the X-Men movies. So,
and we see the Blackbird coming out of the...
We do, yeah. It is those things. Negasonic Teenage Warhead has an X-Men costume on, as does Colossus, actually. I mean, they look basically like the X-Men costume from the movies. So.
Why do I only see the two of you at the X-Mansion? Because the producers couldn't afford any more X-Men.
Yeah. I know, a lot of people... I've talked to people who go like, I really thought Hugh Jackman would be in there somewhere.
I am... Not gonna lie, a little disappointed we didn't get at least one
Wolverine
cameo, if for nothing else, for them to tell each other to fuck off.
It's true. Wolverine is the only one dropping F-bombs in the PG-13 X-Men movies.
That's true.
So he does fit. So let's kind of then back up to what the origin story in the movie is, because we start with this big action sequence and then we go back and we meet Wade Wilson. And in a
mercenary with a heart of gold.
Yeah, I actually really like this stuff here. I really like this introduction to Wade Wilson.
Oh yeah.
I think this is, and you said this is in Daniel Way's book. This
specific scene with like the pizza guy and stuff that happens while he's already Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
He's not Wade Wilson. That's the interesting thing about this movie is it both does and doesn't paint a clearer picture of who Wade Wilson is, because. One thing about the comic books is always, and something that actually the Posehn Duggan run handled directly, was that the comic books have done a really poor job of nailing down exactly who Wade Wilson was or is. Anything pre-Deadpool has kind of become scrambled and confused.
Right.
But this movie paints a pretty clear picture of who Wade Wilson is as a character going forward, but we also don't really see much of that character.
Oh yeah.
Like we get a vague sense, like okay, he was Black Ops. Okay, we kind of know that he has a troubled past and that he enjoys doing good deeds for people in his own weird and like some would say morally bankrupt way.
Yeah. Well, and I think this scene here I really like because it has that kind of vigilante gray area, because I really like this where you think that he's there for this one guy and he's really there for the pizza guy, and you find that the pizza guy has been stalking this girl, and Wade Wilson's basically been hired to intimidate him into stopping. He's basically Ray Donovan in this scene. But yeah, essentially,
you mean Sabretooth?
Yeah, yes, I meant Sabretooth. So he's been, and I really like, Reynolds is, this whole movie, Reynolds is so loose and so comfortable in this part, and to see him outside of the costume bring this kind of presence to the screen is really fun, and the scene is fun.
And that charisma and presence definitely comes through while he's in costume too.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty spectacular, quite frankly, because it is a head-to-toe affair.
It's not easy, and they do some cool stuff like animating the mask so it can express as opposed to just as opposed to just being a flat kind of Spider-Man-like surface. Because several people have talked who don't know the character have gone like, "Oh, was he kind of like Spider-Man?" Because the costume was like,
sure. Yeah,
it's like
Spider-Man if he kills people.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, is it like a spoof of Spider-Man? Like I've talked to people who have seen the trailer and don't know anything, and they go like, oh, I thought they were just spoofing Spider-Man. It's like, No, not really. Actually, not at all.
No.
He's just also a guy in like a red skin tight bodysuit. Beyond that,
there's a couple of them running around in the Marvel universe. To be fair,
yeah.
Spider-Man and Deadpool just happen to be the two most.
I guess
popular.
I can understand if you just see the look and no context that you could go like, oh, you guys, Spider-Man.
I feel like that was something actually from the original script that I read. Was the original like when he's putting together the Deadpool suit? Is he takes a Spider-Man mask and he just turns it inside out, and like that's the
that might have been
prototype for the Deadpool mask.
Might have been
in that original script.
Yeah,
obviously they can't do that in this movie because
I think they would have had trouble doing it at any point. Yeah,
yeah.
Sony is very likely to sue. Hey, wait a minute. But yeah, so we have this, and then we get. It's interesting because he does. You talk about Merc with a heart. He doesn't take the money from this.
Does he though? I don't like. He says give it back to the girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, yeah, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, so did she go to that bar to contact Weasel to hire Wade to do the thing?
It seems like, because we have Wade's friend Weasel, who seems to run a bar for mercenaries.
He definitely does.
But it also seems to be that people know this is where you go to get a mercenary. Like, you just like, oh, you go down 2 blocks and then you can hire a mercenary there. They don't go much into this. I mean, this almost, aside from like the Marvel Universe, could be a movie unto itself.
Sure.
This like the bar of mercenaries and this guy who runs it and stuff.
That's definitely a thing in some of the earlier Deadpool runs as well. Is this like constant hangout where the mercenaries gather and get jobs and trade war stories and stuff.
But it's interesting.
One of my favorite scenes is a fight between Deadpool and Rhino in the middle of this bar.
That sounds insane.
It's because Deadpool didn't accidentally, but purposely turned Rhino to a keychain at one point.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty funny.
But also in the bar, they have an ongoing bet called the Deadpool about
who's going to die
because they obviously work in a dangerous field, and that may or may not be why he gets his name later on. Which I don't. Does that have any basis in the comics?
I mean, a Deadpool is a thing.
I know a Deadpool is a thing. There's an entire Dirty Harry movie about it,
right?
But is there an origin to his name in the comics?
I believe that's pretty much the same origin, though the Deadpool in question was one that was being done at the Weapon X program.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we have this whole... I mean, one of the most interesting things to me in this movie is this whole Weapon X, this not Weapon X thing.
The workshop. Yeah,
it's just... Oh, God, this is where it gets... But we'll get there. But we also get the introduction of Morena Baccarin as Vanessa, who is a prostitute, I guess we're led to believe.
Stripper or prostitute, I'm not sure.
To some extent. We never see her doing her job, really, so I don't know. Like, because I think I think Weasel says prostitute, and then when he goes up to her, I'm like, well, was he just saying that, or is she actually a prostitute? I don't know.
Yeah. We see her working at a strip club later in the movie, so...
That's afterwards and stuff. So yeah, so she's in the sex industry in some capacity. But one thing they have she and Wade have this connection because
they have equal parts crazy.
Yeah, that's what they say. But yeah, I mean, this worked for me. This stuff.
Oh, their relationship was one of the best parts in the movie.
I almost wish there was more of it to a certain extent.
Morena Baccarin is great in this.
She's great in the movie because she gives. I mean, she gives back. I mean, like she's able to banter with him in the same way. She had, like you said, the equal parts crazy. She has that same sense of humor. That's they did a great job of writing this character because this could easily be a nothing throwaway character. The girl, think about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Who is that girl? Who cares?
I have no idea.
Who cares? I mean, really, it doesn't matter. But here they give you a relationship you can actually get invested in. I said my only problem with it is I wish there was more of it.
Right.
Because I do really like their scenes together. And I like this whole thing about, I mean, because I think she is a prostitute or something because he offers to pay her to go out with him and they go and play skee ball.
Right.
Like this is
balls and holes.
Yeah, I know. I'm watching it just going like, this is kind of charming and cute. Like this is I like in a weird way, but
right.
But for this movie, this is like I'm buying the romance here.
Right.
And then we get this sex montage that doesn't sound like, but that's also still kind of charming and cute.
Right. That shows how their relationship builds over the course of like a year.
Yeah.
And them having sex at the different points in the holiday seasons.
Yeah. But I love the Lent joke.
Just them sitting across the room from each other.
Yeah.
Happy Lent.
Yeah. But this is fun and charming, and I'm going with this here, you know. And they're so likable, both of those actors.
Oh yeah.
If anything, I've been saying for years that Marina Baccarin should be in movies and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's wrong with you people? I never understand this thing about TV acting. Oh, she's a TV person. It's like, okay, why?
I don't know.
She could be in movies. I don't know.
Sure.
And I think she probably will be after this. I mean, she's been in some movies, but so we really get a fairly good sense of this relationship. And then somewhere in here we get him collapsing.
Wade has all of the cancer.
He has all of the cancer, which is consistent with his origin from the comics. And they play this dramatically. Like we're not. What I find interesting is he's never breaking the fourth wall in these flashbacks.
Not while he's Wade Wilson. It's not till we get to the Deadpool, like when he becomes Deadpool, do we start breaking the fourth wall. Right. And that is consistent with the character, I feel like. Is like we don't until that process breaks him in some way, is he capable of acknowledging the audience? Yeah, so it's really interesting to me because I'm getting invested in this movie and sort of almost forgetting about how goofy it was. I mean, it's still funny. But this feels like a more grounded movie at this point. And one of the most powerful scenes for me actually was the bit where he's being told he has cancer in the doctor's office, and just the movement of Marina Baccarin to move to hold his hand and tighten her grip on him. It's like, how do we fight this? Yeah, really cemented them as oh, these are two people that legitimately care about each other. Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's what happens when you have good actors in these things, and they're able to pull off little moments like that, really subtle kind of beats, and then you have this whole thing where he kind of wants to take off because he doesn't want that burden for her. He doesn't want to drag her down as he slowly decays and fades away. Exactly. And I like this thing where he's having the nightmares, and he says it's about Taken. I had the Taken nightmare. Yeah. I took Liam Neeson's daughter, and he just was not having it. He made 3 of those movies. At a certain point, you got to just say it's bad parenting. But even in that, there's this undercurrent of melancholy to that. Because he's using that to cover for the fact that he was been up thinking about, oh my God, I'm dying of cancer. Right, exactly. And then we get mysterious man in suit. Right. Then we get really vague bad guys doing really vague things for really vague reasons. And this becomes my biggest problem with the movie going forward in general, is that it's number one, it's Weapon X. Yeah. Why they didn't just do Weapon X is because it doesn't have to be Wolverine. They could have tried to start up Weapon X again at some point. Right. Mostly I just miss Evil Canada. We talked about this. Even the X-Men movies, though, don't really acknowledge Evil Canada. No, they don't. No, it's the U.S. It's the U.S. Yeah, I mean he's Canadian, but it's the U.S. One part of the Marvel continuity, Stryker is U.S. military. Is that the Canadian government is up to some really weird and evil crap. Oh my God! There's a whole there's this. What is it? Department H is Canada's secret bioweapons program. Yeah, I love this idea. Yeah, there's this weird thing, and this all stems from the 70s. Era Marvel, the 70s era Marvel comics. You're just like, what was going on that made these guys decide to start doing it? It was just I know they wanted to make the team more international, right? When Len Wein did. Giant Size X-Men, and then into Claremont's run. So they put a Canadian guy in the team. I love the idea. Let's make it more international. Well, we need a Canadian. That's a given. And Storm, who's from everywhere. Well, yeah, everybody's from, because Nightcrawler's German, and Storm was originally born in the U.S. but raised in Kenya. Yeah, and then moves, but her family's originally from Harlem or something. Oh yeah, it's something or Brooklyn. It's something like that. Yeah, yeah. I so just associate her as an African character that I forget that kind of stuff. And then there's an Irish guy as well who I always Banshee. Oh God, yeah, it is Banshee who's Irish, isn't it? So Irish too, because it's Claremont. He's amazingly Irish. So Irish. Claremont loves writing dialects. He's not good at them, but he loves doing it. Well, it's hard. I mean, how can you do it? It's so difficult. It's true. Just don't do it is the thing. Don't tell Chris Claremont that. But so yeah, we have not Weapon X show up here. And Wade makes the hard decision to take off. And they say they can cure his cancer and turn him into a superhero. Which this is actually one of the first movies, I think, where they legitimately use the term superhero. Yeah. I can't think of another Marvel or DC movie that have used the term superhero.
I feel like something has, but off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for the most part, it's always like enhanced or, some kind of gifted people or something like that. It's not because to be fair, in comics, I don't know really how much they use the words.
I mean, it's pretty ubiquitous at this point.
Is it?
Like in the comic books, at least, things have been going for long enough that no, you're a superhero.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But
you're a person with powers who fights crime. You're a superhero.
Yeah, yeah. They tell him they can cure his cancer and make him a superhero, which sounds good.
Sweet deal, bro.
Yeah, very mysterious though.
Right up until it's not.
Yeah, and so then we go to this creepy warehouse.
Generic warehouse.
This is the thing. Like, I don't even get a sense of this world that they go into.
Yeah.
This is the part of the movie that doesn't work for me. A lot of it. Reynolds is still fantastic. Mm-hmm. I never lose interest in him as our lead, but we meet Ajax, played by Ed Skrein.
Right.
Skrein, I think is the pronunciation. Wow. He recently took over the Transporter franchise and kind of ran that into the ground.
Cool. This is clearly not going to help.
No, nobody liked his Transporter movie. Nobody likes him in this, I don't think. Because he's a non-presence on screen. We meet him. His name is Ajax.
He's just generically evil.
He's kind of a catch-all. Like, he's both an enhanced person and he's the mastermind behind it.
And here's the thing. He describes his powers at one point as he has enhanced reflexes and he doesn't feel pain.
Yes.
Which, fine. But then we see him, like, lifting a guy up by the throat. We see him have super strength, essentially.
I was willing to give him lifting a guy by the throat. But I was not willing to give some of the other stuff we see him do.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, he definitely has full-on super strength.
Right.
Did he just forget to mention his super strength?
I guess.
Oh.
Holding that back.
He started walking out and he was like, sorry. And super strength. Yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
Jesus, I always forget that one.
Yeah, for some reason I forget that one. Never use it. That's why. Yeah. Just use it so rarely that I always forget. So we get him, and right off the bat I was like, this guy? That's the guy? Mm-hmm. That's the bad guy?
Right.
Because I was sort of expecting, we talked about this after we saw it, as in the comics, sort of a Dr. Kilbrew type.
Yeah, Dr. Kilbrew in the comics is the character who was the evil mad scientist who made Wade Wilson into Deadpool.
And I mean, it doesn't have to be Kilbrew specifically. I mean, why not make him? But where's our mad scientist? I mean, yeah, this guy wears a lab coat in a couple scenes, but he doesn't read as mad scientist to me.
No.
He doesn't read as mastermind. He reads as henchman.
Or, like, where did his strange serum that, like, induces mutation come from?
Or, like, this idea, like, I don't know, is this a government thing? Is this some just bad? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
All they needed was to say Weapon X, and I would have been like,
okay, got it.
I would have run with it more. But the fact that it's so mysterious, and do they even give a name to it?
Like I said, I think they call it the workshop at one point.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that did not register.
Like at once, I believe.
There's a dropped line somewhere in there.
Yes.
And then also at Ajax's side, we have Angel Dust.
Sure.
Played by Gina Carano, who at least has some presence.
She brings a level of charismatic intimidation that I appreciate.
She feels like a Bond henchman, you know? I mean, like
silent, constantly that like leaning in, growling, about to tear your throat out, and that was fun.
So her matched with a legitimate supervillain could have really worked because she was great. I mean, I've seen Gina Carano in some other movies. She has a presence on screen for sure. I mean, and the fact that she could legitimately kick my ass and everyone's ass. That's not that hard to kick my ass, probably, but I host a comic book podcast. But exactly, like you buy it, and because it stems from the fact that she is a legit badass. But yeah, and then there's a sort of an almost Iron Man-y kind of relationship with him and another guy in there that they half do and don't.
Yeah, I feel like, and something they've talked about, or at least I heard them talking about in an interview, I want to say, was they had to slash the budget on this movie pretty hard right before they went into production.
You think this is where they
it definitely feels like they dropped some scenes in this part specifically.
Yeah, because this just feels like what? Most of the time it's just like okay, yeah, I want to understand it more. I don't need exposition dumps, but just a little bit more clarity on some of this stuff would be, and really just having a stronger villain at the center of this movie, because
this is by far, I think, the weakest villain in any superhero movie we've had of the current crop.
I agree.
Like, The only one that comes close, I feel like, is Darren Cross from Ant-Man. He's pretty straight.
I was going to say Doom and Fantastic.
I don't even like that movie. Is not even
by that.
Just
but
no.
I get way more of a sense of what's going on with Darren Cross than I do with this guy.
Yeah,
he may be underdeveloped, but I at least there's like a core of something for me to latch onto. And you have a charismatic actor playing that part,
yeah.
and that
there's
goes
a presence there.
That goes a long way. Like it was just like, okay, Corey Stoll is doing everything with Darren Cross he can to make that interesting. This guy, I feel like he's too young. I feel like I said it's just meh.
Yeah,
meh. He's just blah on screen.
Yeah,
especially when he's up against somebody like Ryan Reynolds.
If Ryan Reynolds wasn't as like continuous chatterbox punchy jokes as he was in this movie, I feel like scenes between him and the bad guy would fall completely on their face.
Oh, this movie would be impossible to sit through.
Right.
Impossible. So we then get whatever, this boring guy, Ajax, or as we later learn his name is Francis.
Ajax he got from a dish soap.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's the brand of dish soap I buy.
Oh,
I laughed especially hard at that.
I recognize that.
My bottle's orange.
It relates to me. He runs afoul of him because, like we said, Wade Wilson doesn't shut up ever. There's a reference to sewing his mouth shut. Fine. But he ends up putting him in like an oxygen chamber?
An oxygen deprivation chamber.
Yeah.
It's like keeps him just at the level of near suffocation, which...
Because they've given him the regenerative... We see him be basically tortured.
He doesn't have regeneration powers until we come out of that chamber.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because the whole thing is they're torturing him to try to induce mutation.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, he dies.
Yeah.
Is just the thing.
This is like the final test of it or whatever, right?
Well, this is what they do to the people who really piss them off, I thought. Because this is like torture on a level that is just diabolical. Like, why would you even have a chamber like this?
An oxygen deprivation chamber. Yeah.
Right.
And what that does for then, it ruins his like.
Well, because when his because in this they've definitely made him into a mutant. In the comic books, Deadpool is traditionally not a mutant.
Is that right? I thought he was.
No, he's a genetic experiment. He's just like they threw a bunch of stuff into a blender and spat out Deadpool.
Yeah.
Part of him is like a really hyper energized healing factor that they stole from Wolverine. That's like scrambling his genetics constantly.
Okay.
But in this movie, they've somehow triggered a mutation,
a latent mutant
right.
gene. I mean, the idea that their sort of theory, whatever, because I'm piecing this together as I can. Their like scientific theory at the center of this insane experiment is like almost anyone has the mutant genes in them, or most people do, and it's just about bringing them forward.
I don't even know because.
That's the sense I got. Was there's just like we're trying to show that the mutant gene is within people, but it just hasn't come out.
I would have almost been happier if we'd seen, and this is something they definitely do in the comics with the workshop, is that Wade Wilson is one of the few success stories, if you even want to call it that, coming out of this place. Like, if we'd seen a mound of dead bodies back behind the shed of this place, that would have maybe given it a bit more weight. It's like, oh, they're just plowing through experiment people.
Could be a lack of budget thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that people say that, but hey, show don't tell, man. You know?
Yeah.
We get this. It ends up turning him into a twisted, horrible freak, but he survives and has.
He's disfigured. He gets his like super crazy fast healing factor. One thing that they do in the comics that they don't touch on this movie, which I feel like is maybe a missed opportunity, is the idea that the healing factor is also messing with his brain. The idea that it's scrambling his mind in such a way that, like, yeah, maybe he was a fast talker and a chatterbox before, but this has kind of cranked it up to 11, and he can't even really control it anymore. And that's when I talk about how this Deadpool isn't necessarily my Deadpool. Is in this movie, I feel like he's still Wade Wilson, even when he's Deadpool. In the comics, who Deadpool is so disconnected from Wade Wilson. Like, he still possesses that name, but the idea that his brain has been scrambled so many times he can't even necessarily make sense of his past, it adds a level of tragedy to the character that I really like, that we don't necessarily get in this movie.
Yeah, but that'd be a tough sell to an audience.
It's true.
I do feel like they've made him sympathetic in a way I mean, what you're talking about is tragic, but is tougher to explain that to an audience in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Because I think they do a good job of making you care about him.
Yeah.
So that you're like, I want him to. But it does become Deadpool is just the mask he puts on while he's on his revenge kick.
Right.
Because this is a revenge movie.
Oh, totally.
More than anything.
What's strange about this movie is there's no real arc for the character per se.
Oh no, he's totally static.
Yeah. I mean, at best, his arc is coming to terms with his own vanity.
Yeah. But even that he kind of does through another person.
Right.
So.
So yeah, no,
I mean, and I mean, like, I wasn't expecting anything other than that. Because it's just I don't know that this I don't know how much you can do with this character in 105 minutes.
Sure.
Who knows if we put him in a sequel? But we're going to pair him with Cable, so that makes him have to arc even less. I
don't know. I think they could pull some really good stuff out of that.
I think there's potential to do some interesting stuff.
I think the strongest Deadpool series. If you're going to read a Deadpool series, I would immediately say go read Cable and Deadpool. Is the first one I tell people to read. It requires a little bit of foreknowledge of who Cable is, because that's a whole confusing mess.
I was
going to say
that there's a whole bunch of, and I think I was telling you about this. Like, they're going to introduce him in this, because I don't know about that decision. That's insane. There's got to be an X-Men movie in here somewhere.
We need an Age of Apocalypse movie to give us Cable before we can even start approaching Cable and Deadpool.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see what they do with Cable. But so yeah, we get the, and then he ends up burning the place down and escapes. That guy is killed, but once again, I didn't really get much of a sense of that guy. Who was like his friend.
Right.
He fights Ajax amongst the flames.
Briefly, there's a naked Wade Wilson fight.
And, it looks good. It's well shot, sort of silhouetted against the flames. Mm-hmm. Everything in this movie looks great.
Oh, yeah. Ajax leaves him to die. He doesn't die because his healing factor is insane.
Yep.
And he comes out of it seeking revenge, but now he's got to track down Ajax/Francis.
Mm-hmm. So we get a classic sort of vigilante movie montage of the strings on the cork board that form the organization.
Putting together the organization.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's going from place to place, killing people, but also putting together like new variations on his costume. He starts out just in white like sweatshirt and sweatpants.
But he keeps getting blood on himself.
Yeah.
And then you meet Blind Al, played by Leslie Uggams.
Is that her name?
Yeah. And she said, it's just like this like club soda and something is the only way to get blood out, or you could just wear red,
right?
Which is awesome, and a good. I mean, I like the development of the costume that it is like for practical reasons to a certain extent. He keeps having to alter it in some way, which is fun. And Weasel's helping him with this as well. Of course, once again played by T.J. Miller. Who I think is great in this movie.
Oh, yeah. They have a really fun energy of Weasel. Like, they are best friends, but also Weasel's just like, I mean, he's kind of a weasel.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you do your thing. I'll go home.
But isn't Weasel the one who's also trying to get him to go back and talk to Vanessa?
Oh, definitely.
Because Wade now is disfigured, so he, like, she won't take me back. I'm a monster.
Right.
It looked like, was it a avocado had sex with
an older, grosser avocado?
Yeah, exactly.
And not like nice sex. It was hate fucking.
Yeah.
Like, this is the only way they can get their problems out of the relationship.
That whole run, you could tell. I mean, having a skilled improv guy like T.J. Miller in this movie, I'm sure was quite helpful.
Yeah.
Who would just run with Reynolds on this stuff.
Like Freddy Krueger face fucked a topographical map of Utah.
That was one of my favorites. Like, that I'm sure there's going to be a linorama on that Blu-ray. That's
I'm looking forward to it.
It's just like 20 minutes of them going back and forth on that stuff. Because it's great. So we get this sort of montage, and this is a funny montage. We get a lot of killing and
that part where he's like attacked by the Japanese girls, and he's just like, I don't know, is it sexist for me to hit you, or is it sexist for me to not hit you? Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
I'm so confused right now. That is really funny stuff. He ends up living with Blind Al.
Oh, yeah.
And building IKEA furniture. She's always building IKEA furniture.
That was a weird gag that I, for some reason, really loved.
It comes out of nowhere.
Just because they keep saying all the names of the IKEA furniture.
That's why they did that's why they
true.
edited in there for the joke of just the names, which are always like Florfenlugens and stuff.
Well, John, I'm a big fan of my Lureberg. It holds all of my board games. I'm not even joking.
That's a Lureberg?
No, the shelf I have for all my board games is called a Lureberg.
Is that right?
It's true.
That's insane.
I love it.
Damn you, Swedes.
Hey, they make affordable furniture and great meatballs.
It's true. Yeah. IKEA is a whole experience into itself. So we get this. I'm trying to. Where do we go from here into the movie? I know where it goes, but what's after the montage?
Well, after the montage, I mean, we catch up with the movie because the whole scene on the highway
is him finally
catching up with Francis
/
Ajax. That goes awry when Colossus shows up and tries to
Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who we haven't really talked about, but who I thought was great. I don't think this girl's been in much, but I thought she was really fun.
So you're a moody teen. So you've either got sullen silences or biting remarks. So what's it going to be? Sullen silence or biting remark? You've painted me into a corner. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. That was really fun. One of the things we did talk about after having seen it was one thing that doesn't. The Colossus-Deadpool relationship, I don't get much of a sense of.
It feels like we're missing something from there.
For sure, because he keeps talking about, I've tried to get Deadpool to be hero before. It's just when?
Right.
We don't see them meet.
Even in the flashbacks, we never see them connecting at any point.
Or even seeing so much as Colossus being aware of him would have been enough for me. If Colossus was doing something else and saw Deadpool fighting, it was oh, that would have been enough, honestly, because there's just nothing.
So Colossus keeps saying that he sees the potential hero in Deadpool,
which is something that
and when did he see that?
Yeah, but that's something that I feel like is in the comics, where the X-Men want Deadpool to be a better person, and
they want him to be a better person, but also to leave them alone.
Oh no, they don't want to be an X-Man.
No,
but they feel like he could be a more heroic character, and I feel like I've read storylines that have been interactions between the X-Men and Deadpool where it's maybe stop killing so many people.
And that's a big part of Deadpool going forward through the story, which would be massive arc of Deadpool as I've seen it, is him trying to be a hero despite some of these more bloodthirsty nature that he has. What he's good at is killing people.
Yeah.
But if he can somehow focus that into being more of a hero, he finds more happiness in that.
Yeah.
So especially in the Posehn Duggan run, when we see him teaming up with Wolverine and Cap and trying to, or anytime he's with X-Force and stuff, him trying to focus what he is into something more heroic.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's to me.
This movie doesn't necessarily do that.
No. I mean, in fact, it actively doesn't.
Right.
Because we get this, and we get Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. You say that enough, and it starts to be, what is that? We get them on the bridge, and then Francis / Ajax escapes, and Deadpool's all pissed about that.
And then the movie continues from there. It's eventually he does track down Ajax / Francis, but only after he kidnaps
Vanessa
to get at Deadpool.
Because Vanessa's working at the strip club as a waitress, not as a stripper, as I took it to be.
I have no idea.
I don't actually know either, because God forbid this movie fills us in on anything. But at the strip club, the DJ
that's one detail that it doesn't really matter.
Mr. Stan Lee.
Yeah. Stan Lee as a strip club DJ.
The role he was born to play.
I'll say this. I feel like that's the same character as we saw him in Ant-Man as just the bartender.
Yeah. Who was just crazy hot girl. Because he's saying stuff like, next up on the stage is Tiffany.
Or Chastity.
Yeah, I think, it's oh, yeah. It's just I'm sure Stan loved filming that scene. So yeah, we get this. I actually thought they were going to do a Spider-Man reference when Vanessa goes out into that alley and it's raining. I was like, is he going to show up upside down or something? Because it just was so much the same setup and series of shots as Mary Jane in that first Spider-Man movie. But no, Ajax is there and he kidnaps her and takes her to. This is something I've had a conversation with people about. Where the hell is that ending? Where is that? What is that?
Generic scrapyard. It looks like
they're on an aircraft carrier.
You know what it looked like is a helicarrier.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It looked like an old, clunkier helicarrier that's in a scrapyard somewhere.
Yeah. So strange.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
This movie, one of its faults is many generic locations.
Oh, yeah. No, they put all their effort into like the attitude of it more so than like the practicality of stuff. Definitely, because it's just...
I will say this. It's a cool set piece, that final action sequence.
Really cool. Super fun. I love the setup with the I mean, they once again have the same cab driver, and the cab driver has been negatively inspired by Deadpool to kidnap... is it his brother?
It's his. I believe it's his brother who is also trying to woo the same woman that he loves.
Yeah,
it's like, so I've kidnapped him and put him in the trunk of my cab.
Yeah, that's what you told me to. I didn't tell you to do that.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you should kill him. But you also get this scene where he before that where he gets Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead to come with him and help him save Vanessa, because that's obviously where they're there. He's there to kill Francis and save Vanessa. They're there just to save Vanessa because they're superheroes. But you get him assembling.
I don't know about Negasonic Teenage Warhead. She definitely kills some people during this final fight sequence.
Does she?
She like explodes that car into two goons and just flattens them, pastes them against a wall.
Well, I mean, X-Men don't not kill people.
But that's X-Force's deal.
I mean, Wolverine is on the team, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been X-Men, especially in the movies. Their take on killing has been kind of
yeah. To be fair, they're mostly fighting Magneto, so
or Sentinels,
Sentinels.
Yeah,
we have yet to have a thing where they're fighting like the Right or any human organization.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to get a movie where we see the Right or the Purifiers or anything like that.
I mean, maybe,
possibly, we'll see.
I mean, it'd be a good movie. I think it has
they
potential.
did like God Loves Man Kills.
That'd be awesome. I mean, there's elements of God Loves Man Kills in X-Men 2.
In X2, there's elements of it.
Yeah, but to actually do, I mean, that's one of the great, obviously, all-time X-Men comics. But we also get, what I'm saying is we get a duffel bag full of guns that we have here. Deadpool assembles.
Give me the guns. Which guns? All of the guns.
All of the guns. So he has all the guns, and he leaves them in the cab.
Again.
So all he has is his swords, and we later find out Blind Al's like...
tiny Derringer.
Yeah, basically a Derringer. And so that's what he goes into. We get this cool... slow motion walking up with music and stuff.
Play the music.
Yeah. He actually cues the music. And I think it's in the middle of that they're like, you forgot the guns. He's like, shit! All right. And they play the music again as they keep walking. But
you got a man of living steel and an explosive teenager, literally, so I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. He's all right. Against just a bunch of random goons, one of whom is Bob the Hydra agent.
I think that was an oblique reference to... I mean, not necessarily oblique because his name was Bob.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Bob, agent of insert vague evil organization here.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Which I
Bob?
Yeah, I love that moment. Where even if it's just like, they ran into each other on some Black Ops job back in the day.
Right.
I know you, man. How you been?
Your wife still make those good potatoes?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
So good. And he knocks him out.
Right.
And then I do love the Ajax thing of what's my name? And he's like, I'll spell it out for you. And then he spells it out in the bodies. He spells out Francis.
That was pretty entertaining.
That was one of my favorite bits in the movie. And so we get a big fight. I mean, like, talking about this movie is almost like, and then some more people fight and more jokes are had.
But it's tough to do like a scene by scene breakdown of this movie because there is long stretches that are just like, and this fight sequence happens, and it's super cool. You should just go see it.
It is not. I mean, that's not necessarily a negative. What I'm saying, it's a little bit of one because I do feel like story is on the back burner in this movie. I feel like it wasn't. I feel like they got me in the start with like, oh, cool, I'm really invested in these characters, and then it's just like fight.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, cool, these are cool fights.
Yeah,
but and I liked it. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a fun movie, but I think it could be a better film.
It's like 2 half steps away from like a step forward and a step sideways from being a really great film.
Yeah, I feel like another polish of the script could have been amazing. Like, could have been really something good. And what it is just good. Like, it's fine. And you get they put Vanessa in the oxygen deprivation
which he's just carrying that around with him for some reason.
He drags that everywhere he goes.
And Wade's got 2 swords, so he's got to have 2 axes. Like, where was he hiding those the whole movie?
I don't.
He literally just pulls them out from behind a box at the end there. He's like, and I've got 2 axes.
It's like, yeah,
sure,
man.
Yeah, why not?
You got it, buddy.
You do you, Ajax.
You got to fight with something.
Mm-hmm.
You got to nuke something, right?
Nuke the whales.
Yeah, got to nuke something. Yeah, so we get fight. We get Colossus fighting Angel Dust.
That was a cool. Like, I was more. Quite frankly, I was more entertained by that fight sequence than the Ajax Deadpool stuff.
Yeah, we'd seen that. I mean, at that point, we'd seen a lot of sword play and stuff. It was cool to see 2 superhero people,
2 super strength people, and 2 super like durable people. Also, hands down, at least in my opinion, one of the best jokes in the movie. Because at this point, we'd already seen boobs in the movie in the strip club scene, and then there's one scene where Angel Dust's breast slips out of her shirt, and Colossus lifts up his hand and covers it for like so the camera can't see it. And he's like, "Please put your exposed." And then
I like that she's like, "Oh, that's so nice of you." They've been trying to, and then they go back to fighting. Yeah, but she's just like, "Oh, wow, yeah."
That was one of my favorite bits in the movie.
But that is a really good bit. But it's also a fun. Like, it's also a nod to the Colossus I know in the comics. There's always like gentleman, you know. He's the nice Russian farm boy, you know.
Right.
Oh no, please, I will look away, you know. Please, compose yourself, and then we will continue
beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, exactly. And we get to see Negasonic Teenage Warhead do her thing here because we haven't really seen her use her powers up to this point.
She can basically turn herself into a living explosion.
Yeah, which is awesome, and she's really cool. I love the thing where he goes to do something. She's finishing. It's like, no, by all means, finish your tweet. Anyway. And then she throws the phone and then starts kicking ass. Yeah. And that's really fun. And then of course we get Vanessa and Wade. Well, I mean first we get this Colossus. He's defeated Ajax, and then Colossus is like, you can be better. You can not be. And then he
just shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
Which this has been a pretty, like, I've talked to a bunch of people who liked it and a bunch of people who didn't like it.
This scene specifically?
This particularly where Colossus is giving his speech of, like, you can be a heroic person despite what you do and what you are. It's like, it's 3 or 4 moments. You don't have to be a hero all the time.
I actually really like his speech.
It's finding those defining moments.
Yeah.
And then Deadpool just, like, cutting him off and shooting Ajax in the head.
It's a very comic book superhero speech,
right.
Which I always fall for. Like, that's one of the reasons I love Captain America.
Like, if Captain America gave that speech, you'd just be like, fuck yeah, Cap.
Yeah, exactly. I do feel like, I would be much more pissed off if Captain America gave that speech and he shot the guy.
Deadpool interrupted
it's like, no, I'm with Cap always. Because that does sound like something Cap would say, actually. What was your take on it? Did you like it or not?
I think, if anything, the speech went on a little too long because you kind of saw it coming.
Well, of course.
That scene was pretty heavily telegraphed, so the fact that it dragged on a little too long was just like, okay, we know he's going to shoot him in the head. There's no way this guy walks away from this movie.
Right.
So, come on, just give it to me.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's pretty much what you said, where it's just like, I knew he was going to do it, so I never questioned it. I wasn't upset about it. I didn't like or dislike it. It's just like, of course, that's where it went. That's where it was obviously going to go.
Also,
it was in his character.
This was one of the bad guys that was just like so over the top, obliquely evil.
Yeah, there's no thing. I'm like, yeah, I wanted him to die.
Right.
Screw him, and also just get him out of this movie. He's terrible. He's just a bad villain. He's not a character at all. So then Vanessa and Wade are reunited, and of course she's able to look past his disfigurement because love conquers all.
Right.
And then Wham!
So at the end of the day, this movie is a love story.
It is kind of, yeah. And then Wham! Plays.
Of course. Not just Wham! Wham!
Yeah. This is the album they earn the exclamation point. I love that whole bit. That's super fun stuff. And yeah, and then the movie kind of just wraps up there. And then
that's one thing about this movie going forward into possible Deadpool sequels is that this sets up a Wade Wilson who's maybe not in a stable relationship, but in a happy relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily something we've maybe only seen like once in the comic books. And it never lasts for very long.
But I don't see any reason for it not to in the movies.
Right, exactly.
In fact, I'd almost be upset if it did. If for some reason this didn't work out, because
the stable relationship we've had for Deadpool in the comics is his recent marriage to Shikla, the queen of the underworld and
right.
Baroness of monsters.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see like the idea that there's going to be a Deadpool with like a wife at home or something like that is kind of an unusual take on the character.
Yeah, exactly. An interesting take, I think, could be.
Yeah. I mean, and hey, more Miranda Baccarin and stuff.
Oh, of course, yes.
Because she's awesome. And then we get a post-credit scene, a nod to one of my favorite movies of all time, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and an announcement of Cable and Deadpool.
Right.
Which, Stephen Lang for Cable, you on board for that?
I can see it. I don't necessarily know if he has the gravitas.
Man, I could not disagree more. I completely think he does. I've been a big fan of him for a long time, and he's exactly the guy I would want to be Cable.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never necessarily seen Cable as the, like, I guess it's just his voice. Like, he's a little too gruff. Like, I feel like Cable needs to be a bit more like the orator. Because he's got a definite Messiah thing going on, Cable does. Yeah. And I don't know if, I don't know. I want them to surprise me. I don't necessarily think of anyone off the top of my head as like, oh, that's my Cable. Like that slightly edited picture a while back of John Hamm mocked up to look like Cable is just like, ooh, that looks good. I don't necessarily know if John Hamm is my Cable. There was a picture just a little bit ago of Keira Knightley mocked up to look like Cable.
Well, because it's a joke in the movie where he talks about it. We don't know who we're going to get. You know, this was Keira Knightley. She's got range. Yeah, she's got range.
Right.
Maybe not that much.
But yeah, I don't know. I want them to surprise me. I don't necessarily have a Cable in my head.
Okay. I am part of the Stephen Lang for Cable.
And again, because like Cable and Deadpool is my favorite Deadpool series, I definitely have a very specific Cable in my head, I guess is maybe the problem.
Could be.
And that's like really kind of like uber powerful, almost messianic, like I have the power to change the world literally at the like whim that Cable was at a certain point. That character has bounced around a lot in terms of power level, but at the Cable and Deadpool era, he was definitely at his most powerful, I feel like.
And that was, I mean, that's very much it's very much depends on who's writing it kind of thing. Cool. So that's Deadpool. One thing we would be remiss if we didn't bring up is a certain amount of controversy that this film has. Yeah, I mean, generated.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know. It's
inadvertently so, not on the film. A certain controversy that is cropped up around the movie in kind of a niche fashion because it's a pretty broad hit. I would say the general American public seems to have embraced this movie, pop culture at large. But there has been a certain backlash from the Christian community, which some people are like, well, of course.
And I think,
but there's a particularly vocal one.
I don't know if it's necessarily just Christian community. I think it's also from
a conservative Christian.
Sure,
that's what I mean. Because of course, I mean, I'm aware there are many facets of Christianity to different levels.
Sure, but I guess what I'm getting at is, and I get this to a certain extent, is you go into this movie, it's got the Marvel logo in the front. We've had this crop of superhero movies for the last 10 years now that have been pretty righteous and stand-up in terms of just like the good guys win, the bad guys lose, and the good guys are good guys. We haven't really dealt with anti-heroes like Deadpool all that much.
I mean, they have made some Punisher movies.
Again, but those haven't been on the same like popularity level.
No.
None of those were made in an era in which Avengers was one of the top-grossing films of all time.
True.
So now that superhero movies have become so ubiquitous and so part of the cultural landscape, we get a movie like Deadpool that presents itself. It doesn't present itself as a superhero movie. It doesn't present itself as any of these types of movies that we've seen. It presents itself as like a rated R, like bloody action movie.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yep.
But we are still getting people who see that Marvel logo, know at least in some fashion that he's a comic book character, and go into this movie with a certain expectation that is not what they're going to get.
Yeah, but I don't think that's who's criticizing the movie.
I think that's part of it.
I think that's what people think. I don't think these people have seen the movie.
Probably not.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's my biggest problem is that people are condemning something they haven't actually seen. And yeah, you're right. But this is a rated R movie. They make that clear.
don't take your kids to see this movie.
If you bring your kids to this and they're horrified, that's your fault. That's
right.
not that you can't blame this movie.
Yeah.
But it has raised some eyebrows and there have been some articles written, as with anything. But I do think it's interesting that like I don't feel the content in this movie is that much more extreme than most R-rated action movies.
No. You look at something like one of the first movies we reviewed on this podcast, Kingsman.
Yep.
I don't think this goes any farther lengths than Kick-Ass or Kingsman.
Movies,
right. I don't think this is even as I don't think it's even nearly as extreme as something like John Wick that came out last year.
No, I don't think so. No, I think John Wick is far more intense and violent than this.
Or you look at even something like Netflix's Daredevil.
Well, I was going to say this actually as well when you were talking about that. I mean, that's a Marvel logo. It's on Netflix, but that's a Marvel.
That's a strange thing. You look at Daredevil and Jessica Jones.
Those are R-rated shows,
and those are not raising the same kind of stink that this movie necessarily is.
And to a certain extent, Jessica Jones is like she's not in a costume. Daredevil is.
By the end of the show, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that's why I'll be really interested to see.
Look at the logo that's on Netflix.
Yeah,
though, you know, I mean, like, and certainly with the second season, he's in the costume all the time.
It's true.
So, I mean, like the world of comic books, there are different comic books with different tones for different audiences.
I'm not saying that there's not room for this sort of thing. I am a firm, staunch supporter of there's comic books for all.
You read what James Gunn said about this movie.
Hollywood's going to learn the wrong lesson from this movie.
But what I hope they learn the right lesson, which is just like be creative and be willing to take risks on this stuff. And I think some people will learn the right lesson. Some people will learn the wrong lesson. Mm-hmm. But in the same way that Guardians of the Galaxy taught a lesson, obviously.
Right.
This will always happen.
And that's why I'll be interested to see moving forward within this year, we get a movie like Suicide Squad, which is PG-13.
I believe so, yeah.
But the content traditionally of Suicide Squad is decidedly more mature than anything else in
And the movie
DC.
looks like it's continuing that path, for sure.
Right.
While being a PG-13, it's still going to be an absolutely insane...
PG-13 in the same way that, like, Dark Knight was PG-13.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even crazier than that to a certain extent. Far more anarchic in its message. And I think that is a response to Suicide Squad, or not, Suicide Squad is a response to Guardians to a certain extent.
Right.
Which sort of opened the door for this. And then I think you're going to see more of that kind of stuff.
Whatever the response to I'm going to be interested to see whatever the response to Deadpool is.
I will too, because it's still, even with the success of this, I do not know that it's going to be, you're going to see like 8 of these kind of movies.
Especially considering both...
It's still going to be considered a risk.
And mostly because we already know what's coming from Marvel and DC to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like, there's not necessarily room in the schedules for these other...
I do not think Marvel and DC will do anything with the success of Deadpool.
No.
I think other studios will. Because Marvel and DC are set. They're brands. They've got their thing. They're dealing in PG-13. They're dealing in tentpole. The other thing is, Deadpool cost $60 million, roughly.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what Batman v Superman cost? Well over 200. I mean, I'm saying like there is still as much money as this movie's made. It's still made it on this small a budget. So I don't think you're going to see an R-rated movie at the level of a Batman Superman or something like that.
But when we get, say, R-rated Wolverine, like what does that movie look like? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like we have the popularity of a character like Wolverine.
Yeah.
But we don't have the supporting cast of the X-Men, and we've kind of seen that Wolverine movies don't actually perform all that well.
I mean, the Wolverine did all right, but it didn't do X-Men numbers.
It didn't do Deadpool numbers either.
No.
Because that's a thing now, is Deadpool numbers.
Exactly.
So like, that's what I'm saying, is what the response to this movie looks like is going to be interesting.
I mean, and that's the first response we've seen is an R-rated Wolverine movie.
Or a proposed R-rated Wolverine. Whether or not that actually ends up happening, we hope so. We don't know.
Yeah, and because what I hope it does, and what the best thing it can be done is like represent these characters the way they should be represented. Mm-hmm. And if it means it doesn't even necessarily mean R-rated, but just like have the courage to present the characters, whether it's a little off the beaten path or something like that. Let that happen as opposed
be able to express this mature content.
And I said not even mature content, but potentially just like out there content or out of left field stories, or stuff like that. Just let things. If you're going to adapt something, let it have its identity that it has. Because like I said, it's not even necessarily mature or R-rated so much as it's just like unique or bizarre or unprecedented to a certain extent.
So with the success of this movie, what I really want that to do is segue into, okay, now let Guillermo del Toro make At the Mountains of Madness.
Well, I think they're going to draw it to comic book stuff.
Yeah, I know. Makes me sad, though.
But yeah, that's... is there anything else you want to say specifically about Deadpool?
I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend it to comic book fans. I would recommend it to people who just enjoy a crazy.
It's a fun,
a zany, good action.
Like
movie.
I said, it's got its problems, but it is a fun, brisk 105 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I know it's out there in IMAX. I don't necessarily know if it's worth seeing in IMAX.
Yeah, we didn't see it in IMAX.
Just because that ticket price is so damn expensive. That's the whole reason we didn't go.
I do, yeah, and it's not 3D, so I do support it more. I've seen other movies in IMAX then they look amazing. It's an incredible format. I really like the IMAX poster for this movie.
Yeah, that one's really interesting with him riding Colossus.
Yeah, he's on Colossus' shoulders. Yeah, but I think overall we say go out and recommend it.
Yeah, go see Deadpool. It's fun.
Yeah, was it out of 7? Out of 7.5?
Oh, right. God, we haven't done this in forever, John.
I don't remember the last time we reviewed anything, really.
I would give it a 5.38 out of 7.5.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 5.1 maybe. Yeah, maybe like a little bit less than you, but
sure.
But yeah, it's in that. Yeah. I said on a letter grade of it gets a solid B from me,
Yeah,
it's good. It's good. It's well made. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed it. I would watch it again.
I definitely want to see, now that they've made this movie with future sequels, whether that be X-Force or just a cable Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't. This movie felt constrained. It felt like there was something holding it back. Whatever that was, I don't know whether it was
it won't
budgetary restraints or time constraints or studio constraints or whatever it was.
They'll get whatever they want to make the next
right,
one.
And I'm hoping all of those restraints are gone for the next one, so we get that great Deadpool movie that could have been this one.
Mm-hmm. This is certainly the start of something good.
I hope so.
They're off to I think this is a strong start for something in the future.
Someday when I look at that box set and go, yeah, that first one was good, but that third one was amazing.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool. So Deadpool is in theaters now, and if you want to tell us what you think about it, you of course can find us on Twitter at Panel on Panels. We're on Facebook as well, Instagram, Pinterest. We have an email, panelonpanels@gmail.com.
If you strongly disagree with our review of Deadpool and want to give us a long litany of reasons why,
someone might read it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I at least will read it. I'll cry, but I'll read it. I mean, I'm an easy crier, John.
Yeah.
I don't take criticism well.
No!
Why don't they find us entertaining? It's those 1-star review on iTunes that really break my heart. So if you could just give me 5 stars, I won't cry.
Yeah, please actually do give us 5 stars on iTunes. It does help quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Cool. So we turn now, of course, the way we end every episode with our recommendation segment, where we recommend comics we think you should be reading. It's just the two of us now recommending comics.
So, John, you should start off.
All right, sure. My recommendation is the new run of Doctor Strange.
Oh, I haven't read any of this yet.
So good.
All I know is he has an axe.
Jason Aaron and Brian Bacallo on art. And, oh boy, this is good stuff. It's crazy, trippy, magic stuff in the classic Doctor Strange vein. Doctor Vane Strange. The Doctor Strange vein. You've got basically weird creatures that are sort of impervious to magic.
Ooh.
Like sucking the life out of people and stuff.
Uh-oh.
And Stephen Strange is going, what the hell's going on here?
That sounds awesome.
And having to... And there's also... the main villain is going to every known realm and killing the Sorcerer Supreme of that reality.
Wait. Hold on, but I thought they collapsed all the realities post Secret
But there's
Wars.
different planes of existence.
Okay,
it's not alternate Marvel.
So
stuff.
he goes to the microverse and kills the Sorcerer Supreme there, something to that effect.
It's
or like the nine realms of
more like that
Asgard sort of thing.
More like that than like the microverse. They're not recognizable Marvel locations.
Okay,
but it's just like there are other planes of existence that only Stephen Strange can contact.
Sure, like the astral plane, or
right, that kind of stuff. And there are Sorcerer Supremes there, but now they're all dying because something is coming here for Stephen Strange. So
cool,
super cool book. Check it out, Doctor Strange. They're 5 issues in, I believe.
So we're only an issue or 2 away from a trade.
Yep,
sounds good to me. I'll wait. In 8 months, I'll be reading that book.
It's great. Gorgoni, what do you got?
I've got a bit of an older pull.
Bit of an oldie, but a goodie.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. And that is Warren Ellis's and messed that name up something fierce.
Stuart
Immonen is how you say it?
Stuart Immonen.
Yeah. Their book Next Wave.
Both incredible talents.
Both incredible talents, and it really shows in this book. It is a really, really fun book. It only ran for 12 issues. They've always kind of threatened / promised to bring it back in some capacity.
You watch. We'll do it.
We'll do it. I swear to God.
Don't piss us off. We'll start writing it again.
Not nearly as crazy as some of Warren Ellis's other stuff.
What?
It's actually incredibly. It's actually incredibly straightforward. It's a bunch of. It's 5 characters. Like Z-level characters from the Marvel Universe.
Always fun.
We've got Monica Rambeau, a.k.a. Photon, a.k.a. Captain Marvel, a.k.a.
every hero name you can think of.
Had.
Yeah. Cool. I like Monica Rambeau a
lot. We've got Tabitha. Oh, what's her last name? Boom Boom. She's from X-Men. Tabitha Smith.
That's getting deep.
We've got Aaron Stack, the Machine Man.
The Machine Man?
Oh yeah.
All right.
We've got Elsa Bloodstone of the Monster Hunting Bloodstones.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we've got a character who's just known as the Captain.
Nice.
And they're just like 5 D-list superheroes who get contacted by this organization that is mostly S.H.I.E.L.D., but definitely not. It's an organization called HATE. I forget what the acronym stands for.
Something. Somebody wanted their name to spell
But they're
hate.
Contacted by them to like take out terrorists, but then it turns out through like a bunch of different corporate connections, it's HATE that's running the terrorist organizations.
What would you expect from a group called HATE?
Yeah, so this team then has to go rogue and start messing up all of their plans.
But not involving the character of Rogue.
No, not at all. But basically,
they don't have to go rogue.
It involves these 5 characters traipsing around the Marvel Universe. Every 2 issues is another little like mini storyline where they find a problem, they dismantle the problem, and they do it with crazy action and style.
Nice.
And there's only 12 issues of it, and there's some crazy crap going on later in this book where you have like whole upside down pages when you're dealing with this upside down negaverse sort of a thing. Cool. It's a very insane book by the end, and from the beginning it's pretty insane when they're fighting Fing Fam Foom in the streets of like Ohio town or something because AIM woke them up with like bad it's so weird.
There's a Fing Fang Foom reference in the new Doctor Strange book.
Awesome.
He's not seen, but Stephen Strange does acknowledge him.
Giant dragon in a diaper. I'm always a fan. So yeah, this book is very straightforward. It's just trying to do crazy action with style, and it does it in spades. I highly recommend checking it out. Next Wave is what it's called.
I'm looking. Is that a complete collection?
That is you can find a complete collection of it that just got reprinted a while back. It's called Next Wave Agents of Hate. It collects all 12 issues, and it's great. I highly recommend it.
Nice. Very cool. Oh, well, I think that's about going to do it for this week on Panel on Panels. This is going to be weird. But for Panel on Panels, I've been John Campbell.
And I'm currently Mike Ergoni, and...
Can we get... we'll put in some cricket sounds or something.
He was always Donovan Eilert, right up until he wasn't.
Yeah. Now we don't know who he is, or what he is. Or if he is.
God, this is depressing. Let's just end on this sad, bleak note.
Keep reading.
Donovan... Where are you?
He didn't answer.
No.
Keep reading comics, everybody.